Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Hellman, and I'm the president of the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Chamber's Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the second night of the 2013 Municipal Election Forums. The Medicine Hat District Chamber has been advocating for business since 1900 and is responsible for seeking answers to questions and concerns of importance to our membership. Currently, the Chamber has nearly 700 active members, ranging from one person and home-based business to large corporations. Over the past year, the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce has worked on several municipal issues, including the land use bylaw, commercial taxation, off-site levies, and red tape reduction, just to name a few, and we are committed to voicing the concerns of the business community on their behalf. Tonight we will be hearing from the mayoral and incumbent council candidates for the City of Medicine Hat as they explain their positions on a variety of issues facing our city, while also explaining their qualifications and experience that has led them to vie for a position to help govern a city of 62,000. Because the Chamber is a nonpartisan organization, we are proud advocates for openness and transparency at all levels of government and encourage the business members and the community to take a vested interest in electing representatives and making an informed vote. At this time, I would like to introduce the moderator for this evening. Ken Colby has been president and CEO of the Alberta Chambers of Commerce since February 2005. Over the last 8.5 years, Ken has developed the ACC's profile as a strong, consistent voice for Alberta business. Provincial, national, and international media regularly turn to the ACC for comment on business-related issues. As the CEO of a federation of 126 chambers of commerce, which in turn represents some 23,000 businesses, Ken advocates for policies developed by individual chambers and adopted by the federation as a whole. Ken's broad professional and political background has served him well in this position. He achieved his Certified General Accountant designation in 1980, which has allowed him to provide professional tax and accounting services to individuals and owner-managed business. He has also worked for the province of Alberta in the banking industry. Ken spent 2 decades on the municipal council for the town of Beaumont, where he currently resides, and was mayor of the town for 12 years. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Ken Colby.
Chris, it's always a pleasure to come back to Medicine Hat. One of the things that I guess was missed from my bio is that I was actually born and raised in Medicine Hat, something that I'm really proud of. A little bit of an aside, last night when I was about to introduce the councillors, I recognized that one of the candidates was related to me as a cousin by marriage. So you know, you come from a small community when that happens to you. Anyway, again, I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be moderating tonight's event for the Chamber. Before we begin tonight's debate, I'd like to take a moment to explain the rules to which all of the candidates have agreed. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement before we proceed into the question and debate portion of tonight's event. On the topics presented, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to a question that will be asked to all candidates. Follow-up questions may be asked, to which they will also have 1 minute to respond. During tonight's question and answer period, I may open the floor to debate following a particular topic to a maximum of 4 minutes per topic. And finally, each candidate will have 90 seconds to make a closing statement at the end of the program. This forum is structured in a manner that allows equal opportunity for all candidates to express their political views and plans for action, and the effect this will have on the business in this community. The structure of this forum allows you as the audience to hear from each candidate equally, so you're able to make an informed decision on October 21. None of the candidates have any advanced knowledge of tonight's questions, but they were given a list of potential topics that we will be discussing this evening. The questions for tonight's debate are directly related to Chamber policy, which have been developed on behalf of local business. Questions were also taken from the Chamber membership and anonymous submissions from their website. Those chosen were selected in accordance with Chamber policies and current issues relative to business in this community. Additionally, the Chamber has submitted a letter to each candidate with 6 questions outlining topics such as strategic priorities, excuse me, economic development, small business job creation, infrastructure and public facilities, and downtown revitalization, which will be available for review on the Chamber's website by the end of the week. For the audience, I'd ask that you refrain from participating in the forum in any other way than by quiet observation. Please hold any applause or comments until the end of the forum, unless invited to do so. This is for your benefit, as we've a lot of information to get through this evening, and any interruption will lessen the time we have available to hear from the candidates. If you have a cell phone with you at this time, please ensure that it is either turned to vibrate or turned off, so that we're not interrupting anyone's answers. We will be accepting written questions from the audience this evening, which will be collected by Chamber volunteers. Lady and the folks over there waving their hands at you. Chamber and delivered to designated forum scrutineers. If you have a question to submit, please hold up your hand during the debate and they'll be collected by a volunteer. The volunteers also have paper and pens if needed. The questions may or may not be included in tonight's program this evening at my discretion. Now, without any further ado, I'd like to invite the audience to join me in welcoming to the stage the 2013 Incumbent Council candidates for the City of Medicine Hat. First off, yeah, go ahead. Mr. Robert Dumanowski. Second, Mr. John Hamill. Mr. Graham Kelly, and Mr. Les Pearson. And please welcome our mayoral candidates, Ms. Milvia Bowman, Mr. Norm Boucher, Mr. Ted Clugston, and Mr. Phil Turnbull. Welcome. Okay, before we get to the hot topics of the evening, each candidate will have 1 minute to deliver an opening statement, which we ask include their reason for joining the 2013 election race and their qualifications and experience that will help them to govern the city. We'll begin the opening statements with Mr. Dumanowski.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this forum, and I'd like to thank all of you for coming out this evening and those of you watching at home. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Robert Dumanowski. I've been married to my wife Pamela for 18 years, and we have 4 beautiful children together. When I'm not sitting around the council table, I am currently the principal of St. Francis Xavier School. Ladies and gentlemen, 12 years ago, 4 terms ago, I had the privilege of being elected by the citizens of Medicine Hat, and I've been truly honored and privileged to serve you. I'm very hopeful that on October 21st that I will have that same honor to represent you, to be your voice, to use my integrity, my experience, and my common sense to lead this community, to work as a team to make Medicine Hat move from good to great. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you again for coming this evening and look forward to a great debate.
Next up, Mr. Hamill.
Good evening and welcome. My name's John Hamill. I'm an incumbent, and I'm here asking your support for a further term. I'm a resident of the City of Medicine Hat for the last 40 years. Before that, I was in the British Armed Forces and the Canadian Army. My wife, Kathy, we've been married for 38 years, pharmacist out at Walmart. Many of you may know her if you go there for your drugs. A little plug for Walmart. I believe that Medicine Hat is Alberta's best, and I want to be part of the growth and the expansion of this city. I have been for the last, I think, about 16, 18 years, and I've been a strong voice in that council. I believe that Medicine Hat has a wonderful future. It already is a good city, a very good city. Can it be made better? Of course. There's many things that we need to do and will do. You can't do them all in one time. We've seen an explosion of growth throughout the city with construction. I was trying to list
time. I warned you guys, I'm going to keep you honest. Mr. Kelly.
I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for providing us this opportunity to present our views. I'd especially like to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight. A civic election is an opportunity for accountability for incumbents. How did we do over the last 3 years? Did we keep the promises we made to you 3 years ago? Are you like the king in the Bible who said, well done, good and faithful servant? Or are you like Casey Stengel, who in his first year running the New York Mets had 3 guys on second base, and he said, can't anybody here play this game? Were we Winnipeg Blue Bombers or Saskatchewan Roughriders? I'm looking forward to the dialogue with you tonight, and when it comes to the closing statement, that's when I will present an account of my stewardship to you.
Okay, I got to call you out on that one. Saskatchewan Riders.
Hey.
Come on.
Fighting words. Come on.
Okay, next. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. You're being informed tonight, and that's a very important part of citizenship. I've been a resident of Medicine Hat for 17 years. I know the city well now. I've been a part of 19 different boards and committees. The most important issue, what is the most important issue? Well, flood mitigation. Why is that important? Because it wiped out the possessions of many of our residents who lived in the flat. It impoverished them. Economic development is important in this election. Why is it important? Well, very simply because we have the greatest number of low-wage earners in the province. That's an economic development issue. We have 10% of our population living below what Stats Can calls the basic income level for poverty. 16% of those people are children. I want to be elected to deal with those issues. It's important to me. I have a passion to resolve these things. And I think I have the experience now and training.
Time. Ms. Bowman.
Good evening. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I began my campaign in May. And why I began my campaign is because I don't feel there's any growth in this community and there's lack of leadership. The incumbents, the mayoral the candidates for the mayoral have questioned my leadership and my experience. I have 17 years of experience as a successful business person. Our business has grown 3 times since then. We have weathered many, many storms, and I am still standing here. I was part of the chamber, and under my leadership, we took it from a deficit to a very profitable and vibrant organization. I want to ask you, the people, how do you feel you've experienced these past 3 years? Thank you.
Mr. Boucher.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone tonight. For the last 12 years, I've had the honor of serving and protecting you as the Chief of Police and the Mayor. So what exactly did I achieve? Quite a few things. I've gained a lot of experience in the seat, and I'm the only one here that can say that I can cover everybody. And I'm there also to speak for the poor, the people in the flats, not just the rich people in the economic development. And that's very important in this community. So one of the things that was very important to me, in 2009, I returned to Medicine Advantage. I had to leave my seat to put a motion on the floor to return the utilities back to the lowest it is in every month. And we still enjoy that today. And I'm glad that Council helped me on this one here. I've balanced all the budgets I've had since I've been here. And all the votes we've had, I made a survey, and 93% were unanimous. So thank you very much for your support and your patience with me.
Mr. Clugston.
Thank you for coming, everybody, tonight. I'm getting a little tired of generalities, and probably you are as well. I think that I'm the candidate that's given the most specifics in my campaign, specifics such as expanding the electric utility and getting more sales on the grid, specifics such as diversifying the utility, and also looking for a silver lining in the low price of natural gas so that we can encourage industrial expansion. With me, you know what you get. You get commitment and consistency. I spent the last 6 years on council learning this business of the City of Medicine Hat and this municipality. Being mayor is a marathon. It is not a sprint, and I'm not a quitter. I will stick through, and I will see this to the finish. And also, most people know that I probably talk the least on council, and that means I listen the most.
All right, Mr. Turnbull.
Good evening, everyone. I love to be your mayor, and I'm going to give you 3 reasons that I would like you to consider to vote for me. 1, proven professional leadership with a proven track record of success. I have not had 5 or 50 people work for me, but over 300. I'm a team builder. No organization can succeed, whether it's public or private, without a strong team. Definition of team for me, together, everyone achieves more. Family. 3 of my 4 children live here, 4 of my 7 grandchildren. I want my kids to stay here. So I will do everything possible. I'll leave no stone unturned to provide opportunities to keep my children here and keep your children and your families here as well. Thank you.
Well, thanks, candidates. Now, go ahead. All right, now we're going to move on to the question and debate portion of tonight's events. Question number 1. This one is directed towards the candidates for mayor only. Okay, candidates, what do you believe is the most important role of the mayor as a member of council? We'll start off with candidate Boucher.
Thank you very much. Obviously, the mayor only has 1 vote, so it'd be nice to have a little bit more authority to change things. But really, the mayor, what differentiates the mayor from the other ones, I appoint people to different committees to make sure that their strengths are used the best possible. I also represent and speak for council. After a decision has been taken, if anybody approaches me, I have to speak for council. And I can sit on any committees. I can vote on any committees. So I want to make sure that the process, as a mayor, is followed through. So usually a decision starts with the admin committee. It goes into a committee, whatever committee looks after the thing, the responsibility. It's analyzed. All the answers are provided there, hopefully, because that's where the people will come to the conclusion. And the decision item is presented to council. I chair the council meeting. That's my last responsibility. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to candidate Turnbull.
Yes, thank you. Leadership, number 1 quality. Building a team, I've done that. Strong salesman. The person our citizens need to rally around. The person you trust that will move our city forward. The person that you want to make sure is on top of every issue, from safety to fire to good value for your tax dollar. That's what I see the mayor being. He is the strong leader who will, with the other councillors, move our city in the proper direction. Thank you.
Candidate Bowman.
What I feel is most important is to be a leader. You need to be a team builder. You need to be the voice for the community. You have to have the ability to listen, to be a facilitator. You are the chairman of the board. You have to empower and engage the people that you are working with. You have to be their cheerleader to a certain degree. You have to show that you trust. You have to show your loyalty. You have to show your integrity. You are the leader, and you lead by example.
Okay, finally, candidate Clugston.
Being the mayor is about, because you only have 1 vote, is about consensus building. Basically, you have to listen to your councillors and their ideas and listen to them respectfully. It's more so about quiet leadership and not about standing up and preaching or telling them what they should do, but it's actually walking amongst the councillors, perhaps one-on-one, and slowly building consensus. And if you have an idea as a leader and a direction you want to take the city, you hope that your councillors basically get buy-in and treat the idea almost like it was their own, and then they will follow.
Okay, thanks, candidates. Maybe just help me out here when we get into the questions. If there are, if you want the opportunity to get into a debate on a particular topic, if something was raised after you spoke by another candidate and you want to get into a debate, let me know. Put up your hand and we'll maybe get into a 4-minute debate on it. Okay, the next question is directed to all candidates. There's been much discussion about change for this municipal election. We heard it last night amongst the folks who were candidates. Do you feel that change is necessary in the next 4-year term? And if so, what actions need to be implemented for change to happen? We'll start off with candidate Bowman.
Change is necessary. That's how you evolve as a community. That's how you evolve as a human being. We need to give clear, accountable mandate, not only to our administrators, but also as a council. We need to have a clear vision. We have to have accountability. Accountability from us as well. We have to listen to you, the people. who give us our direction. We need to take that direction. We need to sit around the table and make sure that every voice is listened to and that everybody understands what our main goal is, and that is to make our community grow. And we need to make sure that we hold everybody accountable. All the councillors need to be held accountable, so does the mayor, and all the way down to everyone else. Because after all, we work for you. We work at the pleasure of you. Thank you.
Candidate Kelly.
I think the city's in pretty good shape financially. We're the envy of most cities in the country. We still have lowest utility rates, and I think it's the second lowest in taxation. But yes, there are things that can be done. Sometimes they're kind of subtle. After the last election, the mayor appointed Alderman Dubanowski to head up the audit committee. Before that, it had basically been just, here's some dusty old reports, get some numbers, drone off, and that kind of thing, and you're done. Robert changed the total direction of that committee, so now it examines city services in depth and detail, like fleet service and now building services. And what we are discovering is that we are in a transitional period from a small, cozy type of city to a bigger city where different kinds of initiatives are required, a different kind of template is required to carry Medicine Hat into the future. It's kind of subtle changes like that that are really the kinds of things that we need to focus on. I think we've got a great quality of life, a wonderful city to live in.
Sorry. I was just carried away with how enthralled you were getting. I had that problem last night with one of the candidates. Very impassioned. My apologies. Okay, candidate Boucher, and now I'm going to be tough.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, if we're not ready for change, then we can't adapt. In 2010, we had a flood. We had to adapt to this and correct all the issues. In 2011, then we had a smaller flood, but it was involved. In 2012, we had a rat infestation. This year, we had the largest disaster we've ever lived through the city. So if you don't adapt to change, obviously, you can't survive, and you certainly cannot provide the protection that you need as a community. And that's priority number one, by the way, is the protection of the citizens before all the investment. But even with this, what actions have we done so far? Right now we're sitting on, and after the approval of the new terminal for the airport, $101 million in 9 city-sponsored projects are in action right now. So if we can't adopt the change, I think we have. This has been the best council, if you look at records, ever. So, of course, you have to. So, and then you keep on going. There's a list, and I'll give you the list of the other things that we should focus on in the future. Thank you.
Candidate Dubanowski.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. When we think about the word change, a lot of things come to mind. For a lot of people, fear. For others, excitement. The election time is a good time to reflect on past practices and look at what changes might be necessary. And to say that none are necessary would be irresponsible. The fact is, change is inevitable. So I think it requires us looking at all systems of City Hall. And that doesn't mean wholesale change, but looking at things that we can streamline and improve. From a business advocacy standpoint, we have to look at what barriers are in the way. Legitimate barriers. Ones that we can tackle right away and ones that we have to strategically look at over a period of time. But the fact is, sitting back and crossing our arms and saying nothing has to change isn't going to get us anywhere. So I'm committed to working with the team. I'm excited about that prospect. And changing the landscape of this community from good to great.
Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. Organizations must always review themselves. If not, they become stagnant. I'll give you an example of the growth of our city. From 2000, the operating budget the City of Medicine Hat was $46 million. In 2012, it's $129 million. Our population's increased to only 10,000 people. So if you're not prepared to change and examine how you do things, this is the kind of city growth that gets out of control. So re-examining the business, reviewing it, change is brought about by market conditions, it's brought about by world conditions, and as a result, you need to make sure you can adapt and change and make the necessary improvements for your operation. Thank you.
Candidate Pearson.
The best thing about change is that it's a chance for you to adapt to a changing situation, and that's what we would have to do in City Hall. It means improvements if we can find them, and I think that's very possible that we can. It's already begun. If you haven't been reading the paper, you should. The change is working right from the top down through the organization. And so the most important thing I can say tonight is that we are open for business, and I can prove it, and I have people who will testify to that. We have to work on maintaining what's working. That's important too. The audits, as Alderman Kelly has pointed out, and the major projects, which he has led, by the way, the Family Leisure Center and the Event Center. Those are major projects we've got to maintain and make sure that they're there. But from the top down in our organization, we have to be looking and focusing on customer service. It's important that people know we are there to help them, not to guide them, not to tell them no, but to tell them how they can make a project work. That is a critical part of our...
Candidate Clugston.
I remember when I was first running 6 years ago, I read a book on how to run an election, and chapter number 1 said change. There's never been an election that wasn't about change. It's always a buzzword in all elections. But in order to have change, you have to take action to do it. And I think I've proven over the last 6 years, some of the history that I've done or the actions I've taken. I dragged this city kicking and screaming into renewable energy projects, such as our wind farm and our world-leading solar thermal farm, as well as trying to diversify this utility. In order to get change, you have to build consensus, and which was part of the last question, and you have to have consensus from all of your council. So, but in the end, you do need to change to survive.
Candidate Hamill.
Thank you. Change, is it necessary? I would say that change is good. I think Shrek said that. Change is good, donkey. It was a great saying, and I've remembered it. We're continually evolving as a community, and we're growing. And I think that we must continue to revisit and evaluate all the procedures that we have. It's no good sitting down and saying, well, we've always done it that way. And I don't think this council has. I really believe that this council has looked forward and has done things that future or past councils would never have dreamt of. But we actually did it. I mean, you've got all the things that you require in this city. It's a wonderful city, and I'm very, very proud of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Candidate Hamill. That has to be the best Shrek imitation I have ever heard. All right, next topic. We'll seek answers on this evening is a municipal economic strategy. And these questions are directed again to all. Sorry, I see a hand up down there. Sure. Go ahead.
This is to Alderman Clugston. Yes, change is part of doing things, but change is not always the best. He recommended that we buy an oil field in Manyberries for $50 million, which has yet to show good results. In fact, the first 6 months results are $2 million loss. For the full year, the projected loss is $4 million. But the point is, folks, it put our city at risk because we have never had experience in producing oil. We are totally out of our element here, and the field is far more complex than they anticipated, and we never used experts to help us decide to buy that field. And so I think his judgment, he showed a very poor judgment in recommending the purchase of Manyberries.
Okay, so we're into the 4-minute debate period. Now, pardon me if I can't see your name tag. In order for it to be the proper pitch, it would have to be about 60 characters high. So I've got Candidate Pearson, and then the gentleman way on the end, that would be Candidate Clugston. Did I get that right? Okay, I saw your hand up second, and then Candidate Bowman third. Okay, Candidate Pearson, Candidate Pearson.
I have some real concerns about our wind project on the edge of the city as well. At a conference I attended in Windsor, Ontario this year, I walked through a plant that was built by the Koreans for manufacturing the towers for the wind turbines that are there. What I found out is those turbines come down in 15 to 20 years. They're made of metal, they're subject to vibration and rust. And here's the catch, guys. We paid more for the green energy from those turbines than we could have bought from TransAlta on the foothills. And those towers come down just about the time the city will be tempted to take ownership, because that's the end of the deal. The deal is that after the 15, 20 years, the city can take responsibility for them, and then we have to cost of refurbishing the towers, and more importantly, if they come down and we don't want to continue with that project, we have to pay the cost of recovery. I don't know if that was such a great idea.
Candidate Clugston.
Sorry, did you say me?
Yep.
So I'm interested that I recommended it. It was actually staff, but it was my committee, and the entire council voted for Manyberry's acquisition, except for you. So I don't know how you can put a blame, and I find it extremely interesting that your entire campaign is on one well out of 4,000 wells the city has. There's 90 wells in that field which are producing. The most recent reserve report says that there's actually worth $10 million more than we paid for it. We just got to get it out of the ground. And yes, we are losing $1.5 million on that. However, this utility as a whole is probably going to make $45 million this year. I don't understand your pessimism as why you would just focus on an entire campaign on one well when we have pools, parks, playgrounds, police, and 1,000 other issues to deal with. As well with the wind turbines, yes, we're paying slightly more, but we don't have to reclaim them. The part of the contract is they must pay reclamation, or we can take them over at our choice. We have first right of refusal. And second of all, we're getting property taxes and lease payments, so when you factor in the net cost and 2 new jobs in this city, the net cost is lower than purchasing it from Pincher Creek.
Okay, folks, I'd actually... Okay, I'd actually like to bring you back to the point where I asked at the beginning to not, no applause, okay? Just so that we can get through this whole thing. Okay, I have candidate Bowman next.
Ed, you say that you want to diversify, and yet you keep putting us into the energy sector. Totally. That's not diversifying our assets, our money, our investments. Secondly, Manyberries, you know what? It is a hot topic. It is the people's money. It is the people's investment. And we are losing. You are not an expert. Nobody at this table is an expert. People out in the field have called me and said that this isn't a good thing to be in, and yet you continue to defend it. So what? You know more than everybody else? I don't think so. And what about the cost of reclaiming these wells? What is it going to cost us? We've already got this Manyberry fields where all the wells aren't working. What is it going to cost us to reclaim all of them? How much?
Okay, I've got candidate Pearson, then I've got candidate Turnbull, and then I think we'll wrap this section up. Candidate Pearson.
Shell Oil began the Manyberries field. The way it works in the oil business is the first producer takes the cream, and they sell to a junior company like Chinook, and they take the next, and then they sell to the city. Now, ordinarily, they'd sell to a junior company that could walk away from those wells and not worry about abandonment costs at $50,000 to $60,000 a well, a lease site. And in fact, what's happened is the city now has the liability for cleaning up those sites, and we can't walk away. We are a corporation. You as taxpayers own that field. You have the liability. We can't leave this. It's going to be a long-term liability, and it's dangerous for us.
Candidate Turnbull.
Number one, I was the only one who voted against the purchase of Manyberries when it was purchased for the very reasons it puts us at risk. Now, we have a gas division that's not profitable. Yes, we're making money on the electricity. But our own CEO, Jerry Labasse, has already asked for a modification on revenue because 2 new coal plants are coming online, 1,600 new megawatts are coming online, under construction now, 2,500 are being approved and under construction. So what do you think, folks, that will do to the price of electricity? We have to have a utilities that's sustainable, as run as a business, to ensure that our dividend that we rely on to keep our taxes low is there for future generations. And folks, if it's not, it's coming out of, that revenue has to come from where? Taxes or reduced services.
Okay, so I see candidate Boucher's hands up. I won't go back to anybody else who's already spoken. Anybody else who has not spoken want to get in on this? Okay, candidate Boucher, you're the final one.
Thank you. Actually, on the turbines, the options that previous council had talked about was purchasing and putting up the turbines herself. We figured we didn't have the expertise. It would have cost us $24 million. This is a partnership we've had with this company now, and it's free to put up. They put it up, we have to buy the electricity. But one of the goals we have from you, which was actually a survey to become as green as we could, it was 20% in year 2020. But we're still at about 6%. And we're paying a little bit more, but after 20 years, those propellers are ours. So we've invested in producing. As far as the wells, right now we just dug a well. That's why it's cost so much. That's why the investment is so much. But we all agree there's more. We found out there's more oil in that ground than we even thought when we bought it. So we've hired all kinds of people to do the surveys. It's just a matter you got to hit the right spot in oil. That's the way it works. So, but in all reality, we're doing well. And gas, when gas is low, electricity is high. Have you noticed that in your bill? When electricity is low, usually it's the winter, your gas is high. So when you diversify, you have this balance. So you always have. So in 2012, we made $37.5 million of net profit with energy. That's why it's called the Energy Division. Thank you.
Okay, that was spirited. Good. All right. Okay, one last set of applause. Okay, question number 3. What role do you believe, and this is to all candidates again, what role do you believe the municipal government should play in helping to stimulate the local economy, and what type of investments, if any, do you believe would most greatly benefit business owners? Starting off with candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. Well, government does have a place to play, and we're doing that through, I believe I would certainly sponsor incentives. But one of the problems with incentives we have to be very careful is that we don't upset the level playing field. So if we want to give a new business that comes into the city incentives, we have to make sure it's not in direct competition with another one of our taxpayers who have been here for years. So we wouldn't, for instance, offer Michelin great incentives to build a tire plant here when we've had Goodyear for years. So incentives are important, and government has that obligation as citizens to build our city. We do that through off-site levies. We have an assist there to ensure that the growth of our community is a balance. So I do believe that it is important for us to have a strong economic development strategy. We do not have one in our city. We do not have a tourism strategy in our city. And actually, we pay $800,000 a year to 4 contractors, 2 which are regional, with no accountability.
Time. Candidate Kelly.
Thank you very much. As far as what the city can do in terms of stimulating the local economy, that should result in job creation and that sort of thing. We are spending $74 million on the event center. I know some of you don't think we should be spending a nickel, but that's nonetheless what we're doing. We're spending $36 million on the expansion of the Family Leisure Center, 2/3 of that which is coming from the federal and provincial governments. We're going to spend around $10 million on a brand new Viner Center, a senior citizen center. So that adds up to about $120 million that your local government is going to be pouring into the economy of Medicine Hat. I would call that very, very good stimulus. As far as some of the other things are concerned, our hands are tied to some degree by the Municipal Government Act. We can't waive taxes and we can't give land away below market value. That's just a fact of life. But $120 million isn't chump change.
Time. Candidate Bowman.
What we need to do is we need to continue to invest in our infrastructure. We need to streamline the process. Right now, there are departments that compete against each other in the city. We don't need that. We need to work together as a team. We need each department being able to talk to each other, exchange information without feeling like they're threatened by their budgets. We need to seek out our existing businesses and give them an opportunity to expand and to grow. We need to say, hey, how can we help you find a way? Yes, we can grow. We need to look at our tourism as well. We have gems in this community, and there is no marketing plan for that. The rest of the world, the rest of the country recognizes tourism. It is the 4th largest growing industry. We need to tap into that. We also need to call more than one CEO a month to bring business to this community. Thank you.
Candidate Hamill.
we should support and encourage all businesses that come to the city, and if incentives were necessary, so be it. I'll give you, for instance, we should have an office in City Hall equipped with a fax, a computer, telephones, everything that a businessman would need in there. He sits down, a coffee thing in the corner, if you like, and the business development officer of the city brings in to him the water, the sewer, the light, the gas, the electric, whatever. He brings everybody in to talk to this man, to sell him the land. And then in the afternoon, you take him for a tour around our city. And in the evening, the Chamber of Commerce take him out for supper and put him up for the night if necessary. And come the next morning, he will walk away from this city and say, that's a city that wants my business. That is a city that's open for business, and he'll come.
Candidate Pearson.
Thank you. Halfway through the last term, Alderman Turnbull and I suggested we have an Economic Development Committee of Council, and that idea was not affirmed by our current council. It's important that we market our city. There are markets in Asia. We should have been there when the Premier went to Asia, to China, to look at the possibilities to market our gas, to market our resources. That's really a critical thing. But we have to market our community to both the local and the provincial and national market. We have a quality of life here that's unmatched, and we need to market that to people and tell them about the opportunities that exist here. We do spend a lot of money right now for regional development. I don't buy for a minute that what's good for Redcliffe is good for our city. I don't buy what's good for Cypress County is good for Medicine Hat. We've got to start taking a little bit of a selfish look at that. Capital Works, 3 to 5 years, and it's all gone, and it's lots of our money.
Time. And Candidate Boucher.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, a few points were raised. We do spend $850,000 a year on economic development, which is EDA, Palliser Economic Partnership of the Canadian Badlands, and also in tourism. But on the tourism, Milvia, sorry, but you were chair of the DDMO, never produced anything in 6 years. Last week, they finally announced a DMO for our community so that we can sell our community. So it's about time. So what I can say is we also have 5 downtown plans to make sure that the community and the businesses downtown are helped. Monday, I met this businessman from Vancouver who came here, just bought Cimarron from the receivership. He wants to build, he's very excited. I said, let's go see the planning people. And I said to the planning people, let's make it happen, whatever he wants to do. This is what we've got to do, but you've got to have people. But banks are not making it easy. It's very hard to get money from banks to produce businesses.
Time. Okay, I see hands up, so we're going to go into debate after the last 2 candidates have a chance. I see Candidate Bowman that wants to speak, and Pearson. Anybody else want to get on the list this time? Okay, Candidate Clugston.
Well, it appears that you don't have to answer the question, but I will anyway, because I haven't heard a single person answer the question. The idea, I'm not really into giving cash incentives to stimulate business. Our job is to create a low tax environment and low utilities and let business flourish. That's our job. But since everybody else got to take a jab at me, diversifying, if you read the MGA and Municipal Government Act, we are not allowed to diversify into anything else. We have a special order that we can do oil and gas and electricity, but our investments are limited to AAA bonds, so that's why we're only using oil and gas. The other part, I noticed another question, or a statement about don't get into electricity generation. Well, the thing is that the province's needs are growing by the size of Red Deer, so of course there's more generation coming online. And the other thing is you know what's a difficulty is when you take a stand and you actually have specifics and ideas, such as a call one CEO a month, you put your neck on the line and then it opens you up to comments like, so what would you do? At least I had an idea.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Dumanowski, you get to wrap this one up.
Fantastic. I'm going to stay on topic as well. You know, every election, just like we talked about change, there's a lot of rhetoric that comes out of the whole election timeline. And for me, it's not about adding more to that rhetoric. It's about looking at it meaningfully and saying, what can we actually do? What can we actually change? So for me, let's face it, the economy is the real issue. We are dealing with flood mitigation. We're dealing with those things. But the economy is a real issue. We have to create a fair and level playing field for our business sector. We have to remove those barriers. We talked about them. Streamlining our approaches to doing business in Medicine Hat through City Hall. We have to invest in sound infrastructure. We're doing that now, and we'll continue to do that in the future. Those create spin-off jobs and service, which adds to the tax base and the service industry. We have to promote our downtown core, be creative with that. I've got more on that, and I know I've been on CCDA, but I have ideas for downtown if a council is willing to invest. We need to work with our tourism partners, and we truly have to let business be business.
Okay, now we're going to get into the 4-minute debate period. I have Bowman, Pearson, Turnbull, Boucher. Candidate Bowman.
EDA, I've sat across the table from you, Norm, as president of the chamber. We asked you about EDA, and you said, you know what, we give them the money, and that's it. It's not our business. Accountability. What is EDA doing for us? It is your money, residents of Medicine Hat, that is being utilized. And are you holding them accountable? No, because you know what? How many jobs have EDA actually brought in here? There is no accountability. And tourism, are you kidding me? I have worked hard on tourism. We brought you several plans. Mind you, wait a minute, it didn't get past Ray Bernard. We brought the plans, you made us jump hurdles. We brought another plant, you made us jump hurdles. Yes, I know that the DMO has finally been put ready to go. But it's been, what, 3 years? Is this progress? We've missed 3 years. And I take exception to you saying that we did nothing when I was chair, because we did a lot.
Okay, Candidate Pearson.
The DDMO has been formed, and they did it without us. That's the bottom line. The businesses in our town put it together just the other night. And the other thing I'd like to point out, I guess, is that the Chamber has taken the lead here on business development, and we need to be a partner. They've developed a kind of team Medicine Hat approach using leaders of the community and putting together an approach that would look at marketing our city in that positive way. And we need more of those kinds of partnerships. It seems to me like that's the way you build a community and make it more than just city council that's making the decision. It's got to be a collaborative, joint effort. The city council can't do it all, but they can certainly work in conjunction with the chamber and businesses to market our city in a very positive way. And I think it's about time to do that. Too often, our city has been painted by the developers as the worst place to do business. Well, it's changed, and now it's time to change the reputation. We are open for business. Let's have some of that positive news going out to national publications. That's what's really needed, but we need to do it together.
Okay, Candidate Turnbull.
Well, Mr. Cluxton says that if we have an environment of low taxes and low utilities for growth, where's the growth? There's no growth. Lethbridge has higher taxes and higher utilities. They're growing. So you have to have more than just low taxes and utilities to provide growth. You need to have an economic development strategy. Also, Mr. Cluxton just said that I didn't want to get in the electric business. We're in the electric business. What I'm saying to you is as the price of electricity will drop because the demand, the supply will outstrip the demand. That's not my numbers. That's the Alberta Electrical Systems Operator says we'll have up to 3,000 megawatts of excess power by 2017. Those are not, I don't make those numbers up, ladies and gentlemen. You can check it on the website. So all I'm worried about is the profitability of our electrical will shrink. And with losses of gas profit, we need to be careful that we can sustain the dividend that keeps our taxes and the other, the capital that goes for our community capital fund.
Candidate Boucher.
So I did mention that there's a few things that I've done. When I first was elected in 2007, in January 2008, I brought all the developers to a town hall meeting. And I changed the red tape. At that time, the satisfaction rate for the city, dealing with the city, was 67%. The satisfaction rate right now is 90%. It's not perfect because they're still building codes and whatever else, but we are working towards a better satisfaction rate, and we want to do it. The other thing that's not been mentioned, in the last 3 years, I've just asked our license people, and there's been 1,261 new business license issued. I'm sure some of them will not be successful, but there's been a lot of them. So we make it easier, and they get involved into it. So that's what our job is to be. We're not there to tell business what to do.
Okay, anybody who hasn't spoken yet want to get in on this? Candidate Hamill.
Thank you. Can you hear me? We talk of all this, you know, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a committee, we're going to have a meeting, and this. And I think we've got to stop this, you know, talk and actually get some action done. I mean, I give you a strategic growth way of moving, and that is putting an office in City Hall or at the Chamber of Commerce. You take your pick. But have somebody in there who will take the businessman by the hand and lead him around to like-minded businesses, give him a phone, a fax, a computer. He can then establish his business in that office. He will know within hours whether he can do it or not, and you'll know whether he's going to do it. And I would say, when he leaves here, if he's satisfied, he's going to say, this is a city that's action-prone, and will stay here.
Okay, anybody else? Candidate Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There's been a lot of good things here said about this, and attracting economic development, doing business Medicine Hat is, of course, always an important issue. I think we made tremendous strides in the last 3 years at changing the culture in the planning department. There was a meeting that took place yesterday in Medicine Hat where we had builders and developers from all over Alberta present, and they said we envy the relationship Medicine Hat business people have with the city of Medicine Hat, that both are trying very, very hard to work with each other. Calgary does a great job in these areas, but I pick up the Herald yesterday, and what do I see? That 25% of the business people think the city of Calgary stinks as far as doing business is concerned. 45% are neutral, and the other could go either way. So, you know, every department, every city in the province has an issue with this and faces the problem. We're all wrestling with it, and we're making more progress than you might think. In my opinion, the #1 job of the mayor of Medicine Hat is to go out and grab business by the throat, to get out of the office and head across this country and attract business to Medicine Hat. Be proactive, not reactive.
I almost, no applause. I'm looking at you. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here pretty quick. Hands up quick. Who wants a second go around on this? Okay, and anybody else want a second chance at this? Okay, Candidate Boucher, you get the last word.
Thank you very much. We are expecting a report on how we invest in economic development in December. We've asked our staff to put it all together to see if we can do things better, and hopefully we can. In the last year, I've cut 38 ribbons for new businesses that opened up. But some of them have folded too, so that's the issue. But of all of them, you want to have as much as possible, and a lot of them actually do a soft end. When Target came to see us, before they opened, they said, this is the best city of all the places that we've dealt with, it was to put up the store. And they had to do all kinds of changes for here at the mall to make sure that the building was big enough. But they said, we do a soft approach. No balloons, no ribbons, no nothing. They're not the only one, by the way. There's quite a few of them that do this. So if you want the mayor to go anywhere to China or wherever it is, please give the mayor authority to spend, to offer, to bring something back, because that's exactly what I'm doing with Methanex, but I have to go back to council every time. I cannot put anything on the table unless council stamps it. That's the problem with one vote. I don't mind doing it, or any mayor for that matter. Matter of fact, Nancy and Kelly said the same thing. If you want the mayor to go on and lobby and do all kinds of things, you better give the mayor some authority to negotiate something. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic, which would also appear to be sort of similar to the last topic. It looks like economic development's a big issue. The next question is for all candidates. As an elected leader within our community, there would be an expectation to implement a comprehensive and cohesive economic development strategy and vision for our city. Would you commit to establishing such a strategy during your term in office? Candidate Clugston.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course I would. A comprehensive economic strategy. That would be, would be wonderful. It's very, very difficult to do because, I mean, you talk about strategy, it's just generalities, and we end up going into a room and putting little post-it notes on the wall and then picking the top two, and that's our economic strategy. We do need to make some changes. I do think that we have to look at our tourism model and our EDA, as well as all the funding we do for the CCDA and PEP, and perhaps we need to bring those all together, and so that they can find some synergies between the two. We're spending all this money on different, actually, so you can have different EDs, and I think the tourism should be working with the economic development, and perhaps they should all be on one roof. I don't know that we need to bring it back in-house, because I'm afraid if we bring it back in-house as a committee of council, we're going to end up creating more jobs and more bureaucracy, but we do have to look at it.
Okay, Kennedy Bowman.
Economic strategy, absolutely. It is essential. All good businesses and successful businesses have strategies. They have it for 5, 10, 15 years. What you do is, along the way, you tweak it, you adjust it according to how your economic climate is. But it is essential. It is the foundation of any successful business. And the city is a business. It is your tax dollars that we use to provide you facilities, to provide you amendments, to provide you everything that you have in this community. So yes, we do have to have a strategy, and we have to look at our strategy over and over again and tweak it, and that's how you continue to grow as a community.
Kennedy Turnbull.
Thank you. First thing I would do is bring the 4 contractors that we pay all this money to under one umbrella, reporting to a committee of council. I'm not bringing them in to be employees. They could still be contractors, but those contractors would have to be accountable to council. They'd have to have measured results. If we didn't like those results and we couldn't develop with them a strategy for economic development, they would be replaced by different contractors. I would have a mayor's advisory council, because all the big businesses in town have contacts. They deal all over the country with their suppliers, with similar businesses, and they're the people that will open the doors that we can network with. We also have to be sure that we are communicating with the businesses we have. If we'd had a chance before that we knew ADM was moving out, maybe we could have kept them here in town. We have BADIS, who's down to 2 battle groups. We had the government of England here talking as whether or not they're going to keep BADIS. Where was the government of Alberta, and where was the city of Medicine Hat? We should have been at that table. We should have been saying, how can we help you stay here?
Time.
100 million.
Time. Candidate Boucher.
Thank you very much. Actually, we definitely need a plan, and that's why the report is due to come in December, so that we review how we do this. By the way, Phil, EDA, PEP, tourism, they all report to council. They all have been doing presentation at council, exactly where they're at. EDA, by the way, just won 4 awards. One is a national award. So you think they're sleeping. The problem is you can't go public and talk about all the things you're working with, otherwise companies won't come here. So we need the other levels of government to get involved. So when you pay the taxes, we pay the taxes, only 8% of all your taxes goes to your municipality, 36% goes to your provincial government, and 56% of all the taxes we pay goes to the federal government. What do we contribute? A lot more than them, I can tell you that, 850 for us. We just got 30 from the federal and about 25 from the provincial government. We need to talk. It's not working with just us. Thank you.
Candidate Kelly.
You've all heard the expression, too many cooks spoil the broth. That's a good description of economic development in Medicine Hat. You've also heard the expression, the dog's breakfast. Maybe it's a case of too many cooks spoiling the dog's breakfast. I'm not sure. But we spend a lot of money on economic development, and I said at council table, and other incumbents will verify this, is to me the fairy tale you need to read about economic development in Medicine Hat is the emperor has no clothes. We go to do a lot of things and through a lot of activity and nothing ever happens. And I think a big part of the problem is that we've regionalized it. We've got to pull it together and look after Medicine Hat first. Bow Island is fine and all those other towns, but look after ourselves first. And we've got to have an economic development committee to do that.
Okay, Candidate Dumanowski.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There's no doubt that any of us up here would move towards implementing a comprehensive economic strategy while in office. That's a given. When I think about how to answer this, I think about some of the things that we have in place already. When the Chamber has already presented to us their policy handbook, we look at things in there like the red tape reduction strategy. We look in there in regards to municipal assists for offsite levies. These are things that the experts in the field with a provincial body have been able to identify as barriers, things that we can immediately look at and implement and change. Then we have to look at what ways we can leverage our assets, our land, our utilities, et cetera, to incent business. And really it comes down to this. I had someone say this to me the other day. You know, as a small business owner, I wish someone would just come to me and say, what is it that you could do, City Hall, to help me grow? Grow by 1 employee. Grow by 2 employees. 5.
Time. Candidate Hamill.
Thank you. Establish a comprehensive economic strategy. I would be in favor of that. I think that we have it. You know, I look around all the things that I've been involved in over the years I've been on council. Utilities, land and properties, development and infrastructure, EDA, tourism, they all have an economic development strategy. They all have strategies that they work towards, and they all work for us. They're not out there on their own wandering around, and the last thing we need is another committee to try and keep control of all the different committees we got. They work for us, they report to us, and we either say yay or nay.
Candidate Pearson.
Why did I buy into many berries? Because our committee said it was a good idea. That was before I had a little experience. Why would I buy into reports from PEP when they tell me that they're building metal fabrication plants in Brooks, or that they're dealing on agricultural processing in the county? I think Alderman Kelly has hit the nail on the head. It needs to be a strategy that is developed locally in consultation with UDI, with the Chamber of Commerce, with Building Association. Those people can be part of our group. We need to come up with a collaborative strategy together. This is not something we do by ourselves. It's got to be something that is jointly developed. And you know something? There are stories out there about how the mayor and his economic development councillors, not a bureaucracy, have gone out and marketed their cities and done well. And the best example is Mayor Mo Hampton from Drayton Valley, who, when Weyerhaeuser left the city, went out and found the bio mile with industry and ability to come in and use wood chip.
Okay, I see one hand up that wants to see the additional debate. Do I see additional? Candidate Boucher. Anybody else want to get in on this? Okay, I saw you. Okay, as a matter of fact, you get to kick it off. Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. The 4 organizations we pay for each have an executive director. So figure the salaries, the staff, the offices. One doesn't know what the other one's doing. Yes, we have a member of council sits on those boards, but we don't know what the other people are doing. So we do have to have a Made in Medicine Hat economic development strategy. Otherwise, folks, let's take the $800,000 over 5 years. It's between $3 and $4 million bucks, and let's just build some condos downtown. We'd be a whole lot better as an economic strategy than giving these organizations who have not proven, have not had measured results, and are not accountable for the money we've given them.
Candidate Boucher.
I just want to mention, because I used to be on the board of directors for the Canadian Badlands Limited. There's 62 communities. We're one of them. If we wouldn't have been together for the Badlands, we wouldn't have got that $7.7 million to determine some destination place to go, for routes, for 2-day trips, for discs to give to people and so on, for being part of the Tourism Alberta. We wouldn't be that. You want to work on your own, you might be losing, especially in the tourism front. We have a lot of good things here, but tourism usually, and that was one of our goals, always still our goal, is to keep people 2 days into the city. So there's got to be quite a few things to see. Anyway, having said that, there's also a group being formed right now, and it's about boosting herself and selling herself better and so on. And actually, the chair right now is handled through the Chamber of Commerce. So we hope this is one new approach that we can do, and maybe go out and sell ourselves as a community to see if there's any link in business, but also in tourism, because it's important to have that. Tourism is key. It's the first stone. You can get people to come and visit. When they see the quality of life we have here, I know, because I hear it all the time. People say, why did you move here? Quality of life. How did you find out? Somebody told me. Why don't we sell it? We play golf 2 weeks before anybody else in the spring. The golf course know that. So the Accommodation Association are working very hard on this one. So anyway, there are other things, and we need better partners, and we need a better system. That's for sure.
Okay, Candidate Pearson.
You're quite right about the idea of partnership, Your Worship. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking about what Alderman Hamill once said to me. He said, you know, tourism in Medicine Hat, who's going to go down and look at teacups at Medelta? Interesting kind of comment. Badlands. I'm not done yet.
I just sort of had a feeling. Carry on, Candidate Pearson.
The Badlands organization markets dinosaurs in other places. They don't necessarily do very much for us. They have recently understood that we are in danger of pulling out of that organization, and instead now are giving us funding for someone to lead up the destination marketing organization. And that person now is Jace Anderson, and he's here. He's funded by the Badlands because they were afraid we were going to pull out. There's just not a whole lot of marketing that's done for Medicine Hat, even though I acknowledge that we have many, many things here that are well worth marketing.
Thank you, Candidate Pearson. Candidate Hamill.
I'm absolutely amazed that you would say make a statement like that. It's an absolute damn lie.
Hold on.
That is a lie.
Okay.
You're not only an expert at Medelta and telling mistruths, you're an expert in everything now.
We're okay.
I'll give you a wrap.
Thank you, John.
And that's enough for that for the rest of the night. Okay, we're in pretty dangerous territory there.
You disgust me.
Okay, we're going to move on to another question. Oh, God, it deals with economic development again. Sorry. Question number 4B. What plans do you feel, and this is to all candidates, what plans do you feel would be effective in promoting such a vision and strategy to attract business and residents to the community, and how would you ensure that all stakeholders collaborate in implementing this vision? Candidate Hamill.
I'm still trying to cool down. Excuse me. I had an idea, and it was to get a university for the city of Medicine Hat. And I'm absolutely amazed by the opposition I've had to this. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with our college. Our college is great, full of students, busting at the seams. It gives out all sorts of programs. It actually gives out a degree program in nursing. 4 years, you remain here, and you get a certificate from the University of Calgary. People have said it's light years away. You can't do it. Why not? A municipality can never, ever do this. It has to come from the province, I agree. But Lethbridge had a college in 1957, and they had a university in 1968, and they had 31,000 people. What's wrong with Medicine Hat? If we don't initiate it, we'll never get it. Just think of the leverage that will give to businesses coming here knowing that their children can go the full course of education. They don't have to send them to Regina, to Calgary, to Edmond, BC, wherever, to get a degree.
Candidate Clugston.
So going back to the economic development plan, specific plans, I do agree with some of the statements that we need to go to a more Medicine Hat first. Problem with economic development is timelines. If you judge it on quarterly results, sometimes it might look like a failure. You can be knocking on doors all day long, attempting to bring business, and then all of a sudden, 6 years from now, they'll go, the timing is right, and they will come, although you judged them on a quarterly result and said that they weren't getting any results. As well, I think maybe we need to a specific plan. Perhaps we need to get an employee who's on commission at City Hall. I mean, and we are in a union environment, and they might go nuts over that. However, somebody who is at a base salary and his job is to hustle and sell Medicine Hat all across Canada, and if they get businesses here, they get a bonus. And so, because that's how it's done in the real world, is sales, 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 and sales is motivated by commissions. As well, I have talked about calling a CEO. That's a specific plan, and I thought it was a pretty good idea.
Okay, Candidate Pearson.
Well, we have to look at what we have here, and I guess the most important thing we have is a quality of life. We have really a rich culture. We have our esplanade and the museum, art galleries, all those things are there. We have creative arts in abundance. I keep on saying that our music is one of those totally renewable basic resources that we have in our community. People love this community. It's an irony for me that people want to change too much, They want to see complete change because they love living here. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If we love living here, then we need to look at why we want to live here, the trails, the natural beauty of the place, and even our location, even the fact that we are the kind of community we are, the kind community that has charitable instincts and does the right thing when we need to, like when the flood happened, people doing the right thing. We need to market the quality of life in our city.
Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. Vision has to come with growth. They go hand in hand. It's not just one thing. There's lots of different things that we have to try and do to improve economic conditions in our city. More degree granting at the college keeps students here longer, gets more students coming here. Lethbridge has over 13,000 students. Can you imagine what that does to their economy? We need to get out to, we need to be a squeaky wheel. We have to, we were building an airport. We need affordable air service. We got to be every week, or every month, I should say, at Calgary, talking to both Air Canada and WestJet to get them here. Will it cost us some money for incentives? It will. Building of condos and apartments downtown is important. We will not improve downtown until we get people living there. That's what has been said in every study we've done. Reinvest in our parks, campgrounds. Reinvest and improve our riverfront. There's not a city in Canada has a river run through it that the river and the downtown is not the focus point of their city.
Time. Candidate Bowman.
Well, we have to work together. We have to work together with the Chamber. They are the voice for the business community. We have to have them at the table. We have to work with our college. You know, my daughter's at university, and she already can feel that the city of Saskatoon is trying to keep her there. We have to go after our college students. Perception. We don't have a perception of being open for business. We need to change that. Graham Kelly said it best. We need to be proactive. As business people, which I am one of, I don't sit there and turn on my open sign in the morning and wait for business to come to me. I go hustling and I go after business. We have to showcase our community. We have the Esplanade, we have Medalta, we have parks, we have trails, we have leisure center. We need to let the world know what we have. That's what's going to help sell our city. But we have to go out and hustle and get it.
Candidate Dumanowski.
Well, there's no doubt that an effective vision and strategy for bringing people in Medicine Hat is important and critical to us growing as an economy and as a population base. We have to be open for business. We hear that attitude all the time, but really it comes down to creating opportunities for small and medium business. I've been criticized in the past for speaking too much in favor of that, but really they are the incubators for tomorrow's big business. We have to remove barriers. We've talked about that. We have to look at our quality of life indicators. People move to a community where they feel engaged, where they have creative and cultural and recreational diversity and opportunities that complement the jobs that come with that. We have to work with our province. When we think about doing this and creating those partnerships, we're forgetting a very important critical piece, and that is the provincial partner. When you look at Methanex, for example, they can't incent their expansion without the province on side. So we need to look at all things and put them all on the table. We can make this happen.
Candidate Kelly.
Economic development is always a challenge. I understand that the burnout rate of economic development officers is second only to junior high teachers, and that's probably true. In 1991 or 1992, the present mayor, Ted Grimm, appointed Mrs. Bowman's late father-in-law, Bill, and the late Lyle Flynn, and I as Economic Development Committee. We went down to Phoenix for this United States Economic Development Conference, and Phoenix was saying, sunshine is not enough. We were, my God, the Sun Belt was the fastest growing area of the United States, and cities like Phoenix were desperate for economic development. So we came back and said, what are we going to do? We were all told, well, start small, and John, could be the value of a committee. First thing Mr. Bowman did is that he had business people coming in.
Time. Candidate Boucher.
Thank you. I think we have to improve a few things. One is the airport. Phil has mentioned that. Very, very important. Last year I invited Ports to Plains, the American group, About 200 people came in. They ended up in Calgary, and they wondered how are we going to get to Medicine Hat because the aircraft only has 18 seaters. So anyway, we've got to do something at the airport. We're working very hard with this, and I hope we can move this ahead. We also need to open up that border 24 hours a day. There's only one border open 24 hours a day, and it's been closed a few times on scares, bomb scares, and whatever else, because you need to have a way to bring people here. If you're going to advertise, and I can tell you from a business point of view, and I've talked to a lot of doctors, and that's their business. They'd like to live here, but the hospital has been a problem because they cannot provide the specialty that they would have in the community. So the hospital upgrade is on its way up. Thank God for this. There's a lot of things we have to do. A lot of it starts with tourism, though. They have to know we exist.
Okay, I see one hand up for a supplemental. Anybody else want to get in on it? Okay. Candidate Pearson, then candidate Turnbull. Candidate Pearson.
Foolish if we thought that a university would solve our problems. The government of Alberta has made a very wise choice. The university is in Lethbridge, but we have a gem. We have a technological kind of college campus. These are jobs that are immediate. The training that goes on at the Medicine Hat College is a gem. If you want to be a power engineer, you have a job waiting for you all across our nation. You know, Fort McMurray would die to have you there. We would die to have you here. Methanex, Canadian Fertilizer would die to have you here. It's really important for us to understand that what the college is doing is dealing with technology. Richard Florida, a great futurist, has said, future industry is going to be about imagination, creativity, and technology. That's exactly what the college is all about. Check out their design programs. Check out their arts programs. And in particular, check out all of their technological programs. And the tickets that people can get there is far outweighs, both in income potential and in benefit to the community, than any university can provide. Bachelor of Arts, I know that there are cab drivers with Bachelor of Arts. I don't think that's what we need. We need some more technologies, practical education that's going to result in real wages and real jobs.
Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. As I said earlier, there's not just one simple answer to economic development, but it starts with lots of different things. And one of the things you have to do in the city is define yourself. For instance, in Lethbridge, they have French fry factories because they grow potatoes. They're opening up a second sugar plant because they grow sugar beets because they have irrigation. Fortunately, we don't have the water rights for irrigation here. So we have to define exactly what it is we sell. And that's what you need to concentrate on. You can't just go out in all directions trying to figure out what economic development is. You must have a definite plan to where you think the opportunities exist for what we have to offer. Thank you.
Candidate Hamill.
Thank you. We're still talking the status quo. There's nothing here you can get your teeth into. In fact, you're definitely talking the status quo. We just heard Milvia say that her daughter is in Saskatoon completing a degree program, and they want her to stay. They're encouraging her to stay. And that happens with every student that goes to Lethbridge, to Calgary, to BC, to Regina. They want them to stay. What is wrong with us getting our students to stay? Many of them do from the college. I'm not knocking the college. The college is a great facility, does a tremendous job, and always will and continue to do so. But what is wrong with the further education? What's wrong with the idea? All we have to do is ask. It's within us to do it. We as a council cannot do it. But as a community, we can ask the province to consider it. And that would be a huge boost to our city.
Okay, before we get into the next question, just a reminder, if you have a question, write it down on a piece of paper, put your hand up, and somebody will come and collect it from you. Okay, question number 5. Again, for all the candidates. Pardon me? I'm not sure, Councillor. Candidate Hamill, I haven't read it yet. Currently, many businesses in Medicine Hat perceive regulations at City Hall to be overly burdensome, costly, unnecessary, and frustrating. The business community would like to see a reduction in the regulatory burden on businesses to ensure the City of Medicine Hat is viewed as open for business. As part of the body overseeing the city's administration, what specific directives would you issue to the administration to improve its efficiency and effectiveness? Starting off with candidate Pearson.
This one's a relatively easy one, and I think it's already starting. the frontline workers in our various departments, planning and others, have to have that attitude of how can I help you? And when people come forward with plans and developments, it's very, very critical that they get to the people very quickly who help them make decisions and guide them in the process. There are lots of wonderful stories out there. The story that comes to mind is the story of a gentleman who wanted to develop a fitness business in Redcliffe and Medicine Hat and the county. He went to the city office and found out there were so many passes, so many kinds of approvals that it was really a burden. Went to Redcliffe and they took him out, showed him some land and said we could have an approval by Thursday of next week. Went to the county and the lady at the county said, and how can, do you want me to fill out your form? Well, that kind of help is something we have to compete with, and it seems to me that...
Candidate Dumanowski.
Well, it has to start with yes, you can attitude. We have good people working at City Hall. We've made some gains in this area, but we have to work hard at this. The reality is we hear time and time again that when you go to City Hall, there are barriers. You have to come back. There are costs. That's the real cost, is having to delay opening your business or expanding your business because of the red tape and the paperwork. Very quick example, I worked through a business who was looking at developing on the outskirts of the city, and they came to me and said that they had an emphatic no from City Hall. I met with them, called the city department, got the planning people, sat down with the business prospect, and right at the onset said, how can we move this from a no to yes? What are the barriers? Let's identify them. And if this were your business, how would you navigate around this? By the time we were done, we had a business permit in place. That's the attitude that has to happen.
Candidate Hamill.
Thank you. Are we open for business? I believe we are. I mean, I've gone through this. I had a business. I had two businesses here, one after the other. And I went down, I got my business permits. And if you follow the correct steps, if you do the right thing, fill out the form, you have your necessary papers in order, then they'll do it. We've already been caught quite badly, actually, if you look at River Ridge. We tried to cut corners down there. And what happened? It's come back to bite us. The city dropped the ball. We didn't do the paperwork properly, and now it's going to cost us, or cost you.
Candidate Boucher.
Thank you. Actually, there's some progress that have taken place. One of the things is having members of the senior staff in several associations, like I said. The Home Builders Association, for one, because they're ongoing with all kinds of things. We have some senior staff that are members of the construction associations, attend their meetings every month, try to solve these problems. There's a lack of communication, actually. And so you can always work on communication. It's never perfect, but we've reached 90%, which actually is much better than it was, but there's a lot of work to be done. We have to make it simpler, and one of the ways to do that is to go check with other cities. What exactly do they do? What are their best practices to solve these things so it doesn't take very long to get an approval? And we started doing that, by the way. We're not completely useful, I think, at this point here. And the bottom line is attitude. We've got to change this attitude to the completely open, not just open, but completely open to serve. We're here to serve, not to be served.
Candidate Bowman.
I feel like I sound like a broken record, but we need to streamline the process. That's basically it. You need to reorganize it. You need to get people like the Chamber, UDI, the home builders, those people that have to go through the system day in and day out. Sit around the table with key city administrators. Work out a win-win situation. You need to organize or reorganize the structure system. I had somebody tell me today that they wanted to buy a piece of land. No, they can't buy that piece of land because that piece of land is sold to the Parks Department. The Parks Department has to turn around and sell it back to the land departments. Are you kidding me? We own the land as a city. You, I, everybody at this table, we all own the land. Why does the Parks Department have to sell the land to the land department? That makes no sense. And was told they would take 1 to 3 years to do that process. That's red tape.
Candidate Clugston.
So we do need rules. We have to have safety first. I mean, we can't just ignore the safety part. However, we are going to get a new CAO here very soon, and it should start, a culture of change should start from the bottom up. What employees have to looking at things as black and white and more look at the gray. There's always just policy and they say, nope, sit on their hands. Nope, there's a policy that says we can't do that. I think maybe when you come to City Hall and you've got a dream or an idea, maybe we need to have somebody called a technical coordinating coordinator. Basically, that person will say, what is it that you want to do? And they have experience in planning and water and electric and all the utilities, and take you around to each of the departments and say, you need to get this from this department, and basically show you, or in simplest terms, hold your hand through the process. And then hopefully you can get there in one stop and get it all done. And as well, we do work and need to work more with the Canadian Home Builders, the Urban Development Institute, the Chamber, and the Construction Association.
Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. We just passed a new land use bylaw. It took a year and a half. All the stakeholders in the city got involved. It's a very business-friendly bylaw. But passing a bylaw in itself is only one part of it. You also have to get everyone in staff at city on the same page in following the intent of what that bylaw was intended to be. But the most important factor is you must have a review system. No business, whether it's public or private, can pass a bylaw and ask staff to do something without you have a review process. I would personally, as mayor, have on my desk every Monday morning the list of applications for permits, and then compare that with the week before. And anyone that did not fall within that time limits, something has to be done about it. That's called leadership. And you have to change that culture by having the staff know that someone is actually reviewing the processes. If anyone in the business that I run is not on my page, they get on my page very quickly.
Time.
Thank you.
Candidate Kelly.
Generally speaking, over the years, the Municipal Planning Commission chairman has just basically been a passive neutral referee when things came before him. The previous one, Ty Snyder, and I have been very, very active MPC chairman. I think a result of that was the fact that if you talk to the chamber now and you talk to the sign companies particularly, they'll say they're very, very pleased with what we were able to accomplish in that land use bylaw. I met with the staff on a regular basis, and they said, well, we usually have a regulation about signs that it has to be so many feet from blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And basically my attitude was, who cares? Let the thing get up there and let the people judge whether or not it's going to be useful. And so the fresh air is beginning to blow through that department.
Okay, I see one hand up for additional comments. Anybody else want to make additional comment on this? Okay, Candidate Dumanowski, followed by Candidate Turnbull.
Mr. Moderator, Alderman Turnbull is correct. The land use bylaw will go a long way. We've just revised it. So it really hasn't had an opportunity to work its way through the system, but it will go a long way to streamlining those approaches. But I want to create, and one thing I was remiss to bring up is a tracking mechanism. When you think about the drive-through at McDonald's, when you go through, you look at the back of the receipt, it says, how did we do? Come tell us. Put this number in, tell us. When did you come? How are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the service? We need to create a tracking mechanism so that businesses can come through and we can come to a defined period of time where if things haven't been resolved, everybody sits down in the room until it is resolved. That's getting the barriers out of the way.
Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. I forgot I wanted to say that we do need a navigator when you apply for a process. And the first question that person's staff should say is, we can help you through this process. We're going to help you get through this process. That's the start. We are a service-oriented community. We as a city, municipal city, we have to provide that service. Customer service has to come first. You're the taxpayer. You expect when you go in to City Hall for anything that you're being treated politely and that you're getting the service that you need to get to open your business. Business is important. It provides jobs. Those jobs spend money. They provide new jobs. It is a snowball effect. So it is important, very important, that we get this kind of cooperation with our staff, but it always boils down to leadership. Someone has to make sure it happens.
Great. Anybody else want to get in on this one? Okay, moving on. Next question. Again, to all candidates. We're now going to move on to the topic of Medicine Hat Air Service. The Medicine Hat Regional Airport has a single air service provider for passenger flight departures from and arrivals to Medicine Hat. There's been significant concern from the business community related to the high airfare with the current air service provider, and wait times, flight schedules, and available destinations are also prohibiting both business and leisure travelers from utilizing the Medicine Hat Airport. Do you think aggressively pursuing options for better air service in Medicine Hat should be a council priority? What actions would you commit to over the next 4 years to see this happen? Starting off with candidate Kelly.
This one's been bedeviling us for a long, long time. The mayor did an outstanding job in terms of trying to convince WestJet to come into Medicine Hat. Air Canada officials previously had met with us to ask us what needs to be done. I presented some figures to them which showed that it was cheaper to fly from Calgary to China than it was from Medicine Hat to Edmonton. And that is basically a large part of the problem. When my wife Lorene and I came back from the Grey Cup in Toronto last year, we had a 5-hour layover in Calgary. We got on one of those little planes. It was frozen. My back teeth are still chattering. It hadn't improved for 25 years. I can get in my car and I can drive to Calgary in 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's the big problem, and the airlines have to respond to that.
Candidate Hamill.
Yes, it is a high cost flying from Medicine Hat into Calgary. I've done it on occasion. Now I drive. And I think it's something that many of you do, and it's probably you'll continue to do it until such times as the fares come down. We have, over the last couple of years, been in touch with WestJet. We tried to encourage them to come here. We're refurbishing the airport itself. We have the land to extend the runway. We tried to get WestJet to come in with their larger planes. We're also talking, or have talked over a number of years ago, we talked to the British forces to try and get them to come and land their planes here. Normally they land up in Calgary, and then they bus all the troops down. It would be far easier and better for us if they came in through our airport. We own it. We also have this huge amount of land there, and I'm amazed that nothing's gone on, nothing's happened to it. I'd like to see development there. You should think you'd get engine, propeller, instrumentation, undercarriages, all those things that are associated with aircraft. They would come if we could get a larger aircraft.
Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. Yes, we are building a new airport, and we're hoping that somebody's coming. But you cannot just rely on hope alone. Yes, the mayor and our staff did go to Calgary and make a presentation to WestJet. And what then? I would be up there every month talking to Air Canada and WestJet. What can we do to get you here? But we cannot just rely on just those two. We actually had an airline company with a 30-seater that came to council and asked that they could fly in here, I think it was 3 times a day. And council, they needed some incentives. Council would not give them the incentives to come here. So when we talk about economic development, everybody talks about what we should do. Here was a pure example of what we could have done to try and get this airline in here. If we don't get this airline, we can't have conventions. If we don't get airlines, we can't hold big. Can you imagine having the Memorial Cup but nobody can fly in here? With the new, that won't happen, folks. We need to be aggressive here. Knock, 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 knock. My father said, squeaky wheel always gets the
Time.
grease.
Candidate Dumanowski.
Well, talking about air service is a little bit like talking about chicken and the egg, because we were told time and time again if we had more passengers, prices would be reduced and we'd have more opportunities to fly in at a Medicine Hat. But right now, there's no doubt airfare costs are prohibitive. Wait times are prohibitive. You can drive to Calgary, have a coffee and a meal, and get on your flight cheaper and more conveniently than you can right now flying out of Medicine Hat. Destination opportunities are limited. There's no doubt we can incent airlines to come here. We've tried that with WestJet. Unfortunately, it didn't work, but it doesn't mean we stop trying. We have to be prudent when it comes to incentives, but I think it's our logical approach that we really need to do, and other communities have done it successfully, so I think that's really the way to go.
Candidate Pearson.
It's a matter of weighing the cost and the benefit. That airline that we were approached us wanted exorbitant amounts of benefits from us. And so if you want the service, then the city can spend your taxes and do that. I don't know if that's a good investment for us. We are expanding the terminal. We're making it an attractive place to land and have service. And yes, we've responded to your interests and to your wishes for a cafe there. And that's going to cost you some money too. It's certainly the lease money will never recover what we're putting into that building. So what are some of the things we can do? We can work with the chamber to determine the market. That's what will draw the people here. That's what will draw the airlines here. We have to make sure that there's an economic return for the airline that's coming in. So unless we know how many customers are there, how many people are going to commit to using air travel if it was provided at an economic rate, I worry about this. I think that there's a limit to how
Time.
much.
Candidate Boucher.
Well, thank you very much. From what I hear, my partners here, I think they missed out on quite a few things. First of all, we need it. We need it. Because if you're going to grow, you want to have conferences, you want to do all kinds of things, you need people to come right to the city. By the way, when you look at airfare and schedule, is it a priority? It is a priority to me because I think that's how you become a city. Just to commute, for example, to Fort McMurray, we've got quite a few families here that are living here. They need to commute. So when we approached the president of WestJet, first of all, it wasn't, I was there, and I talked to them. They knew all about our stats, and they were great stats produced by the chamber. There was a study, and I worked with the chamber. We actually approached Air Canada a few times. They wouldn't budge on it. But we have a professional with 30 years' experience, and he's very well known by the president. I think it's a matter of time. If not, I've already suggested maybe we should have our own airline. We have buses, so maybe that's big, but the Cree in northern Quebec has lots of money.
Candidate Clugston.
It's absolutely correct. This is a chicken and an egg. We are doing a $5 million expansion to the airport, not a new airport, but an expansion. And we have been meeting with WestJet. The problem is that they've ordered, I think it's about 40 of these Q400 Bombardier that seat 78 people. And as they come off the production line, they're assigned to a route. We are, I think, fairly confident that we are going to be one of the routes as soon as a plane becomes available. I don't know when, but we had to do that expansion. As well, there was a survey done, and I think it actually was done by the City of Medicine, not the Chamber, that shows the kind of people and the amount of people that are driving to Calgary and connecting to going to the south or going on business. And you are absolutely correct that the fares are outrageous. The only people basically flying that plane right now are government employees that don't really care about the cost of the fare.
Candidate Bowman.
Well, the airport is like a service, like our transit system. We don't necessarily going to have it come out making money for us, and that shouldn't be. It's a service. We need to go back to WestJet. I agree with Phil. Constantly banging on the door, banging on the door. We need to sit with people like Les Little. I sat with him when I started with my campaign. You know what? He understands airport, airlines, the whole system. I don't. But that's why we go to people who do, who understand, who have the experience, who also are able to get through the front door of some of these airlines. Look at Great Falls. They have increased their airport. Why? And Battis, there was an opportunity to partner them when my father-in-law was an alderman. Why don't we go back to them? They put a lot of money into this economy. It would be a win-win situation. Does it really hurt to sit down and ask? Does it really hurt to go out and...
Time. All right. Candidate Turnbull, followed by Candidate Boucher.
With all due respect to my good friend, Les Pearson, and look, incentives were not that expensive. Why wouldn't we take some of the $800,000, what we're getting absolutely nothing for, and put that money into getting air service? Wouldn't that give us way more economic development opportunities than we're getting from four groups that are spending our money with no accountability and no measured results? So folks, I think sometimes we miss the big picture. Economic development is important because we need air service. That will build economic development for us in exactly conventions and tourist opportunities. But you can't have it unless we're prepared to pay for it. So I say take some of that money we're wasting and put it to good use.
Okay, Candidate Boucher, followed by Pearson.
I just want to clarify one thing. When we met the president of WestJet, they knew exactly the numbers they need and what we can produce. We were the highest one. The problem is connecting the routes. So the last one that was connected with WestJet was Brandon. Their two main goals are, they only have two goals at WestJet. To exceed services, and that's because most of them are owners. 80-somewhat percent, 85% or so are owners into WestJet or have shares. And the second thing is to have lower fares. It would match exactly what we need. The problem that we have with this, though, is where's the destination? Where will they go? Because right now we're only flying Medicine Hat, Calgary, and you have to make connections to always the pits when you go there to go to Edmonton or whatever it is. And I know a lot of people laugh when I said about having your own airline. Look, if you don't think big, it can be done. It can be done. And we could choose wherever this airline flies. Regina, Saskatoon. I mean, we got a lot of people from Saskatchewan here. Great Falls would be a great place. We can maybe make a route of Calgary, Kamloops, Vancouver and return it. Or Fort Mac again, because I think, by the way, there's one thing that you may not know, that Suncor is the third largest airline in Canada. That means there's 42 airports around Fort McMurray. And most people don't know that. So once you get into this, this is what our professional consultant told us. So we're on the right track with this person. And he's well known, by the way. He knows the president very well of WestJet. Thank you.
Candidate Pearson?
So a story from one of the seminars I attended at the Sustainable Community Conference. The federal government, provincial government spent a huge amount of money expanding an airport in a small Quebec town with the idea of attracting business. And the mayor of that city was there to talk about the wonderful things that happened. IBM came, a lot of other companies came and set up businesses in their community. And so we had to listen a little bit further because she said, and of course, the airport isn't really being used very much anymore. Guess what? The internet makes the world flat. And a lot of conferences are being done by Skype or by something equivalent to that. You don't need to travel away. You don't have to unless you're going on a holiday. And so I guess before we made huge investments or provided huge incentives, I'd like us to take a look at the effect on business. Because today, telecommunications, the internet, are probably the very best ways for us to communicate between businesses and industries. And I really question whether the technology surpasses air travel.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Question about natural gas. Where do you envision our natural gas and petroleum resources division to be in the short and long term? What do you believe is the best management practice for this business unit? And how do you think it would be best operated? We're going to commence with candidate Boucher.
Well, first of all, we're in the business. We've been in the business for 130 years. And the first people that really started to do the business in natural gas saw the vision. And it's paid off for us. And they haven't been all good years, by the way. There's been years where you have to invest a lot to keep the business going. And the last purchase, really, that we did on natural gas was, I think it was around 2003 or something like that. So Free Flight was the name of the area, and it was in Saskatchewan. It's paid off. It was paid off, actually, in 1.5 years. There is no debt on the gas side right now. So it's a big benefit. Whatever we pump out, and it's cheap for you, good for you, because you own it. And that's what's important.
Right,
the other thing, the other thing that I think that's important to remember is we're going to switch a lot of our fleet to natural gas because it's the cheapest way. It's 70% cheaper. It's cleaner, environmentally friendly, and so on. And right now there's a program going on with the federal government to have stations with natural gas for all kinds of vehicles, particularly large trucks and stuff.
Time.
So,
candidate Bowman.
Prices in natural gas are not going to go up in any time in the near future. And I'm talking about 5 to 7 years. I have checked with people who are in the industry here in Medicine Hat and also in Calgary. It's a high volatile commodity. You need to know what you are doing with it. And there is nobody at this table that understands that industry as well as the people that work in that industry, the people who have made money in that industry, and the people who have owned companies in that industry. I strongly believe that we do need to appoint, I didn't say pay, appoint a board of directors, like it was recommended in the report in a previous council. There are many people who have come from Medicine Hat who have been very successful in the oil and gas industry that are living in Calgary who have offered to come and assist us with our asset. Why aren't we?
Time.
Look,
Candidate Dumanowski.
There's no doubt that our natural gas resource is important to Medicine Hat. It's been here for 130 years. Long and short and long term, we have to look at diversifying our portfolio. We've heard that. But that is really the mainstay of staying in the game. We can't change our production. Our plant is gas powered. But we have to look at ways to use low gas prices as an incentive to doing business. Methanex is here. We've heard that before. The prospect of an expansion is precisely based on low gas prices. That increases our tax base, which offsets the losses that we incur on our utility. There's no doubt that the challenges are before us, but I know we've weathered them in the past and we're going to weather them into the future.
Candidate Clugston.
So absolutely in the short term, prices are going to remain low, and they probably will in the long term due to the shale gas technology. So we have to stop complaining about the low price of natural gas and talk about companies that left that rely on, need a high price of natural gas. The city of Medicine Hat has been doing this for years. We've had booms. We had a boom in the 1910 where people moved here. We had a boom in the 60s where all the major plants came, and they came because of the low price of natural gas. And I think we may be on the verge of another boom. If we land this Methanex plant, 1,000 jobs for 2 years, and then of course the permanent jobs, we will have a boom problem, which is a good thing to have. I've also committed, I'm not going to have a separate board of directors, but I have committed to bringing in outside experts on any major acquisition to take a second look at the acquisition and all new drilling projects.
Candidate Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. A few years ago, the price of natural gas was, of course, going through the roof, and we decided we were going to be big players. And in fact, our COO proposed to City Council that we move the management of the Utilities Division to 4th Avenue in Calgary, so we could be a big player there. Then the bottom fell out. Mrs. Bowman makes the point about some of the people who could help us with these things. Some of the ones that were on the short list when Ernst & Young were looking at our utilities are out on the street now. When you ask what's going to happen in the terms of the future of natural gas, I mean, the easy thing, or the politically incorrect thing to say is damned if I know. But the fact is, we don't know. We need to go back to serving our own citizens and our own businesses. That's what we need to do.
Candidate Pearson.
I couldn't agree more. I think we need to look at natural gas for our own needs, and I still maintain that we need a gas utility. But I think we need to understand, too, that it's the gas in the pipe that is the problem. It's costing us to produce gas. We've lost $14 million this year, and last year another X number of dollars. I think it was in the neighborhood of $20 million. Alderman Clugston could absolutely confirm how much. We can't go on losing money producing the gas. We could buy gas from northern Alberta for the same price that we're selling it to our customers. The money is in DISCO, in the distribution network. We charge a tariff for shipping the gas. We need to keep the utility because DISCO is profitable, but we need to look very seriously at recovering wells that aren't producing, taking care of those wells, those leases at $50,000 a pop or more, and the long-term liability for those particular lease sites. We own them. They're our responsibility indefinitely. And if the casings crack and there's leaks, we have to worry about them.
Time. Candidate Turnbull.
Thank you. Natural gas over the next 10 years, according to the plan by the Energy Committee, will lose $124 million over 10 years. We need to find a way to limit that loss to maximize what is left of the gas potential. CEO LeBass says the immediate price of gas will cause us obviously to lose money. But even if prices come back later on in the forecast, which is in a 10-year stretch, we will not be either profitable or sustainable. So again, we cannot allow one division to bleed like that by saying that we're using the profits of the other business to subsidize it. That just doesn't make any business sense, ladies and gentlemen. This is a situation that we need to find the answers for.
Candidate Hamill.
Thank you. natural gas and petroleum resources in the short and medium. I believe that at the present moment, our gas is in the doldrums. It's the same all over North America. Everywhere you go, there's too much shale gas. And that's brought the price down, which is good in a way. It brought Methanex back. And if Methanex continues with the expansion, which we hope we're going to get, it'll be about $1 billion invested into our community. That is a good thing. It also keeps paying the $24 million towards your taxes to keep our taxes down within the city of Medicine Hat. And it will meet that goal this year and will continue to do so. It's not just the gas that we have to worry about. We have a large pie, and there's gas and oil and electric, and the electric and oil are doing well. The electric is doing exceptionally well. In fact, this year, I think it was in the paper today, that they're going to meet their budget or exceed it by 4 times. There'll be something like $48 to $50 million will come from the electric division alone.
Time. Okay, the next question, final question before we get into wrap-up comments. I'm going to combine a couple questions, and then, but don't get too panicked. All we're looking for is a yes or no answer. Okay? Which might cause you a little bit of indigestion. Okay, the off-site levy bylaw review commenced in April 2012 with involvement from the Medicine Hat and District Chamber of Commerce, the Canadian Home Builders Association, the Urban Development Institute, the Intensification Redevelopment Area, a greenfield developer, and a citizen at large. After receiving the final costs and off-site levy amounts, there was concern over the impact that off-site levies would have on development, growth, and the overall rate shock of the increase to development. If the off-site levies bylaw is implemented without consideration of an assist factor, Medicine Hat will transition from one of the lowest off-site levies in the province to one of the highest, with the fees similar to that of the City of Calgary. Here's the question. Okay, a yes or no. If elected, would you commit to voting towards a municipal assist or development factor to help offset the off-site levy fees? Candidate Clugston.
I've been very clear with this, and it's an absolute yes.
Candidate Turnbull.
Absolutely, yes.
Candidate Pearson.
Yes.
Candidate Boucher.
Yes.
Candidate Dumanowski.
Yes.
Candidate Bowman.
Yes.
Candidate Hamill.
My committee says yes.
Candidate Kelly.
Yes.
OMG, it's unanimous. Congratulations. Anyway, thank you for your participation so far. You've been very, very cooperative with the moderator. I sure appreciate that. We're going to be moving into the wrap-up now. Sorry, I just had to reshuffle a bit of the agenda. Okay, so now we'd like to give the candidates one final opportunity to address the audience with their closing statement. Each candidate will now have 90 seconds to speak. We're going to go in reversing order from where we started at the beginning, and that means candidate Turnbull, you're up.
The leadership you elect for the next 4 years will be crucial in the future development of our city. The mayor's record over the last 6 years will not be sufficient to deal with the issues facing our city over the next 4 years. With all due respect to my 2 fellow candidates, they just do not have the experience yet to be mayor. 37 years of business experience, my term on council, will enable me to hit the ground running the day after election. I will not leave any stone unturned to find the answers to solutions to the problems that we will face. I want to improve communications with you, the citizens. I will commit to having 3 town hall meetings a year, so I will give every citizen an opportunity to share their views with me. If you put your trust in me, that trust will not be in vain. On October 21st, I ask for your support. Thank you very much, and good night.
Candidate Clugston.
Being mayor has been a dream of mine for a very, very long time, but I would never have considered running for mayor 6 years ago. I considered this last 6 years like an internship to learn the city's finances, the governance structure, and overall how it works. My work ethic is second to none, and I'm reminded of over 100 years ago when Rudyard Kipling came through Medicine Hat, and he described this city as all hell for a basement, the very famous quote. And he saw the potential in this city because of low price natural gas, and that same quote stands true today. He also wrote a famous poem about a politician he greatly admired, and it goes a little bit like this: if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, and if you can do those things, you can be a great mayor. So I want to be your great mayor.
Candidate Boucher.
Well, thank you very much. I think I'm the only one that's got the experience. We have a quality of life, not only here. I've supervised directly, Phil, up to 4,700 people. I worked in 2 war zones where you come here and it's easy to work here, a lot easier. You know why? Because there's a lot of people engaged. We've had a great council in this last go-around. It was just unbelievable. What we've delivered was unmatched, unmatched. And if you look at the quality of life we have here, go look somewhere else. I'm telling you, you will not get it to this level. And it won't be this cheap. That's for sure. We have the second lowest taxes in Canada, the lowest utilities every month. That's for you. We've got all kinds of things. We're improving on the process, every process, reducing the red tape. We've got a lot of people engaged, and I think I can really keep on engaging staff. There's all kinds of changing that's going to happen at City Hall, but that's the name of the game. People move on. You got to get to the new ones, and you really got to get a better focus for service delivery. So I thank you. This community is safe. It has been all along, and it's really friendly. To me it is. Some people say it's not, but it is to me. I only ask for your backing and your trust for one more term. Thank you very much.
Candidate Bowman.
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated by the lack of leadership, by the lack of direction, by the lack of growth. What has this council achieved? We sure have talked a lot about, but what have they achieved? 8 years to get an event center. That's 2 council terms. You call that progress? I don't. I've been outdoor knocking, and the people of Medicine Hat do not call that progress. I'm not looking to the next 4 years. I'm looking to the next 10 to 20 years. That's what we need to do. We need to build our community for down the road, not for today. If you want to vote for change, you vote for me. If you want to vote for status quo, you vote for the old boys club. 93% you vote unanimously, and yet there are 3 of them sitting here at this table running for mayor. You call that team? If you don't want to vote for me, don't vote for me. If you want to vote for me, vote for me. But make sure that your voice is heard on October 21st. Thank you.
Candidate Pearson.
I'm addicted to public service. I love this community. It's been my home for 17 years. It'll be the place I die. I just don't want to die at this next election. I am committed to making this a better place for everyone. I'm motivated by my faith, which says I'm my brother's keeper, and I have that responsibility. I am a counselor by inclination. I just love the full-time role of counselor and helping the community grow. Answering questions. I've responded to emails and phone calls, and I love doing it. It's important to be that kind of catalyst for change. I'm a lifelong learner. I love going to conferences. I love reading the Municipal World publication. I look for best practices, and I will come up with strange, weird ideas, but I know that they've worked somewhere, and I will recommend them to council. If you're looking for old ideas, that's not necessarily what I'm about. I think it's important for us to look for innovation and change, and just because I'm old, Milvia, doesn't mean I have old ideas. It's important, I think, to recognize that sometimes old dogs can learn new tricks, and I'm an old dog that can do that. I'm fit for service. I will work hard for you in another term. It'll be my last term, but it's important for you to understand that after 3 years of an education and experience on council, I now think I've got something to contribute. And I really want to do that. Check it out on www.lespearson.com. People, planning,
Time. Darn, just about made it.
Just about.
Candidate Kelly.
Speaking to you as the chairman of the board of the Old Boys Club, I would point out to Mrs. Bowman that if she and the chamber had had their way, the event center would have cost $30 million more than what it is costing now.
Amen.
We got it done. And although the businessmen on council were very, very supportive, particularly Mayor Boucher, of getting the event center done, it was 3 school teachers who in fact took over the process and got it done. And I'm proud of that. It's been a great, great honor and a privilege to serve you, the people of Medicine Hat. You've been very, very good to me over the years. It's been a great experience for me. I love this city. We've loved the city from the time we've got here. We're very, very proud of it. And when I'm across the CFL, for example, and other places, I tell people what a great place this is. City Council is a team. The responsibilities that the mayor gave me were public services primarily and the Municipal Planning Commission. Municipal Planning Commission, we produced the land use bylaw and we cut through a lot of the red tape and we're slowly changing the culture. As far as public service is concerned, we had the responsibility for the event center, the expansion of the Family Leisure Center. We will have the responsibility to build a new seniors center. Alderman Pearson put together a youth committee. We've done a lot. We've accomplished a lot. For the most important thing, in my opinion, in this election, and the most important thing in any election as far as the citizenry is concerned, and that's the
Time. Councillor Hamill.
Thank you. I've proudly served the people of this community for, well, ever since I've been here. I've been a strong voice that works hard to get results. I want to remain a part of building this city for tomorrow by lending my experience to enhance business and economic development, by supporting all citizens and culture of the city as a cohesive community and ensuring that my voice continues to speak for all the people. I have proven leadership on numerous committees and boards. I was general manager of the Chamber of Commerce. I was elected to the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, which is all the municipalities in Alberta. They all belong to that. I was chairman of finance, Special Forces Pension Board. We had over $1.5 billion that were invested, and I was part of that. And I'm also fiscally responsible because of my financial background. I'm 100% accessible. I'm dedicated to giving back through volunteer service, through the YMCA. I was past chair, president of the Safety City, past president of the Shrine Club, and president of the Highway 3 Association, and currently chairman of the Development and Infrastructure Committee that looks after all your in-ground services. That 8 years that Ms. Bowman talks about saved us $35 million, and I probably was the one by pressing the wrong button and then pressing the right button that caused it. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for coming.
Candidate Dumanowski.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you to the Chamber for sponsoring this event. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out. It's been an absolute privilege and honor to serve you the last 12 years. Together, let's build a stronger economy. Let's promote economic development that will allow our community to grow, and one that will increase our tax base and lead us and take us well into the future. A community that fosters recreational and cultural diversity, a community that is truly inclusive, one that removes barriers, a community that creates and encourages a young to stay, and by providing them a promise of a positive future. Not forgetting, of course, our senior population. After all, they're the ones who built this community. Ladies and gentlemen, on October 21st, you have a tough decision. You have to build a team that is going to lead the city well into the future. I hope that my track record for integrity, old-fashioned hard work, and confidence will buy your confidence and ultimately lead you to a vote. So I'd ask that you support Robert Dumanowski for councillor. Thank you.
All right, candidates, thank you. Certainly thanks to the candidates for their straightforward, candid comments. There were times where I was going to say, tell me how you really feel. And I certainly do appreciate your tolerance of the moderator. Thank you to the audience for your participation or lack of participation during, except the fellow over here who applauded out of turn. There was Okay, the hallmark of a chamber meeting is it starts on time and ends on time. Well, we're going to make a little bit of an exception to this. We'll get you out of here like right quick. One of the things I forgot at the middle, I was remiss in not introducing a former chair of the Medicine Hat Chamber who also served 6 years on the Alberta Chambers of Commerce Board, was the chair of the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, my boss at that point in time, Kay Taylor. I'll echo the comments of the candidates in thanking the Medicine Hat Chamber of Commerce. When I was asked to come down and chair these two forums last night and tonight, I didn't delay at all. I knew it was going to be well organized. I knew it was going to be to the point. I knew it was going to be talking about business issues, because that's just what the Medicine Hat Chamber of Commerce does. They're very focused on advocacy, not only at the municipal level, but at the provincial level and the federal level, and it shows. They're one of the most respected chambers in the country when it comes to advocacy work, and you're lucky to have them here in your municipality. As a matter of fact, yeah. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce was voted Chamber of the Year in their size category by the Alberta Chambers of Commerce in the year 2013. Congratulations to your team. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll conclude the Chamber of Commerce 2013 Municipal Elections Forum. Before you go, I'd like to bring up Chris Hellman, President of the Chamber of Commerce, to say a few words.
Thanks, everyone. How about a round of applause for our moderator, Ken? Just before I finish up here, I'd just like to note, thanks everybody for the questions you submitted up front. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to get to them, mostly because of the debate that was happening there, so that's a good thing. But we did have each candidate fill out a 6-question questionnaire that many of the questions submitted relate to, and that will be up and running on our website by the end of the week, so you can check in there and see if your question was answered. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank you for attending tonight's Chamber Election Forum. While the Chamber does not endorse any one candidate, it is the Chamber's responsibility to help the public better understand the issues at stake in our municipal election and where our candidates stand on business-related issues. We hope that by attending tonight's event, you are able to make an informed vote on October 21st. I would like to acknowledge the staff of the Medicine Hat and Chamber of Commerce for their work in organizing tonight's event, as well as the members of our Board of Directors, Chamber Ambassadors, and volunteers for their roles this evening. Thank you to the Medicine Hat College for providing us with a theater this evening, and finally, thank you to Shaw TV for being here to film tonight's event. Tonight's forum and yesterday's will be broadcast on Shaw between October 12th and 20th at various times. Please visit the Chamber's website at www.medicinetchamber.com for full details on these broadcasts. Thank you all for attending, and have a great evening.